Are athletics the new slavery?
Are athletics the new man?
How did
Athletics.
this topic come up?
I think it's because so many people look at. Let's use the NFL for example. You know, I think the NBA black men represent almost 90%, 86, 87%. The NFL ain't far from it. You know, and we look at the tremendous amount of money these athletes are making, right? So, how could that remotely be compared to slavery?
Exactly.
When slaves ain't
Brutal. When
you know,
slavery was brutal.
It was a brutal system, and it was for free, bruh.
For free.
You know, that's you stealing all the labor.
For real.
But then you can look at it from another perspective, from a different angle on the box.
In slavery, they beat your ass.
Oh yeah.
They took your woman. They sold your kids.
It was inhumane.
They beat your ass. I'll go back to that again. So, but a gentleman, I forgot the guy's name. I like to do randomness, but
Right.
so I didn't research this topic prior to us talking about it.
It's
But
up
the
top.
brother wrote a book about this, I don't know, 5, 10, 15
Really?
years ago.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I forgot the title was something that has slavery in it. You know,
It related to athletics.
$40 million slave, or it's you know what I mean?
You know what? I ain't seen
it was
the
a book on that.
I saw like a
Yeah.
little clip or something.
Yeah, so
but it
I
was
don't
from
really
a book.
know what his perspective was.
Okay.
But
okay. You know,
people have been saying that for years, though, that these athletes ain't nothing but slaves.
I think what they mean by it, when we really break it down, I think the slave analogy is a little rough, but I understand the plantation mentality.
Yeah.
I think
a
they're
lot
looking
of them
at
do
it.
have the plantation
I
mentality,
think that's what they're
and
referring
their
to.
mouths are shut in regards to topics.
Because you got an owner, you
Yeah.
dig? You got somebody that you refer to as my owner.
The check writer.
The check writer. So nowhere else really in society can brothers say, look, my owner did X, Y, and Z. But you know as an athlete, be it all athletes aren't high paid either.
That's
so
right.
we only look at
The majority aren't.
the majority aren't. They're really just some grinding brothers who making, you know, league minimum or a
Yeah.
little bit better for what they're doing, which is over $100,000,
Yeah.
you know, but it ain't the $100 million.
Exactly.
It ain't
It's not
500
LeBron.
million. It ain't LeBron. It ain't
Jordan.
you know, Jordan
Or current, you know.
You look at the NFL.
KD, Kyrie.
You know, you look at the NFL where the contracts aren't guaranteed and things like
Yeah.
that. When you playing and you can get hurt and you can, because you know you ain't getting beat, but you taking the beating.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when you look at the physical toll, specifically at football, and the short lifespan, and the typical after playing days scenario, most of these cats, not all, but most, end up with nothing at the end of the day because of that plantation and slave mind. They destroy all their resources while they're playing.
Yeah.
And at the end of their playing days, they have nothing.
It's like a repetitive story. Each time I watch some of these documentaries, I'm like,
It's sad, bro.
it's the same story.
When you gonna
Somebody
rise up?
referred within the NFL
Yeah.
executive office or manager or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, you need to go have talk to, you know, Brassfield in LA.
So we
They'll
can
handle your money.
They handle your money.
And then they invested in some
Car wash.
cockamamie real estate deal
Yeah.
or
With
car
their
wash
partner.
or
With their
and-
partner.
and they lose all their money. It's like the same story each time.
So it's like these. So that's why I think people look at the
And
perpetual
typically,
cycle.
there's non-melanated people involved with that whole transaction.
Because where you get most of these cats from who playing in the NFL. You come from the inner city most of the time, looking for an opportunity to what? Change the fortune of their families. So you getting vulnerable brothers who are probably,
Very
not all,
vulnerable.
but probably not as well educated on some of these scenarios because their family has never been exposed to this type of wealth,
Yeah.
exposed to these type of opportunities. So you get these brothers and you turn them into quote unquote slaves to the game.
Yeah.
You know, they become by any means necessary. We talked about this, you know, before we got on air regarding how cats don't think of anything beyond football. You know, even if you have a degree, even if you've been able to acquire some college education because of your football prowess, you don't ever think there's life after the game because you become a slave to the game. And they can do you all kind of ways and talk to you all kind of ways. And, you know, so that I believe when you start adding up why one would compare athletics to slavery, it's a mentality more so than a actual reality of them being slaves. It's a mentality of them not really coming together to take care of the community. You see these because really, you got some of the biggest exports from Black America is athletics and entertainment.
They're corporate
That's
slaves.
what we export. They're corporate slaves.
Yeah.
You know, like rappers to a certain extent, when you look at it, they say, well, rappers ain't the same as before. But athletics more so because it's just a physical. When you go to the combines, what they do, they look you up like a, you know, he's open your arms, take your shirt off, nigga, let me see your teeth.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Let me look in your
All
ears,
that.
you know, hold your nutsack up and cough, all of the above, because it was just as primal as at a slave auction.
Yeah. You know, I've heard that you hear it on some of the some of the NFL broadcasts how they say he just looks the part.
Yeah.
And I've seen that in
The
college.
eyeball test.
Eyeball test.
Yeah.
And that is critical to them. That's critical. And what's funny though is because, you know, I'm a closet general manager in my mind.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have made that draft pick, or I would have picked that person or that person.
Right.
But, see, a lot of those GMs don't understand, and a lot of the GMs aren't African American.
Certainly.
And it goes kind of to the Ben Simmons thing, how he nutted up.
Yeah.
How we used to say in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Ben Simmons, the eye test.
Yeah.
Big, strong, 6'10", 6'11", can dribble.
Yeah.
Muscular, athletic.
All of the
But
above.
when you sit him down, I was talking to this about my son the other day, and we're going to get really back to the topic, but this is part of
This
the
is
topic.
on topic, yeah.
He's not a dog, though.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
a lot of I don't think the European men, when they see these guys that look the part, that pass the eye test, they don't sit down with them and say, okay, but like Mike Tyson used to say, okay, you look all this, but after I punch you in the mouth, what are you going to do?
What's your plan then?
So when I'm sitting in it, we know how to tell when another man has that dog in him.
Coachable.
When he's going to know how he's going to be able to react to crisis moments.
Certainly.
And push back and be a champion.
Certainly.
Just because you 6'10" or 6'8" like LeBron, 260 muscular, that ain't the be-all, end-all. A 6-foot cat that's 200 pounds could get in your ass if he's got that dog in him.
But that's the mentality that these owners looking at these particular athletes.
Which is why you see a lot of draft busts, because they look the part, they pass the eye test.
And then as they come through the system, to stay on point with this whole slavery concept, when they come through the system, they've been subjected to all of this scrutiny and all of this other slave-like treatment, and then they become a bust. And then they go back home. And now they're broken men because now you've been treated. So the road is littered from all athletic perspectives, from basketball to football. I don't know baseball too tough, but I'm sure it's littered as well, of cats with the best of intentions to want to go pro. And then realize, man, I've been pimped by this whole thing. They've used me. My body is broken. My spirit is broken. And now I got to go out here and be one of the men that provide for my family.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
That's shocking to the system after just being a ball player your whole
And
life.
then being told not only a ball player, but told that you great.
That's right.
Told that you
I
great.
think that's more than...
Bruh,
Yeah.
that will
You're
crush.
told- and I've seen a couple documentaries, they mentioned that. The brothers be like, yeah, I was told I was the man
I was the man.
all my life, and then I wasn't anymore.
And then I wasn't. So what can we do?
But
to
however,
help
to
change?
the average person out here, they're saying like, well, you're an NFL player. You made hundreds of thousands of dollars. How can that possibly be compared to slavery? I'm over here busting my ass for $40,000 a year on my corporate 9 to 5, taking shit from my boss.
Absolutely.
Shut the hell up with all that slavery comparison
And
shit.
they have every right to feel that way. But the reality is, if you really break it down and see the system in which these boys and young men are put through, and then discard it at the end of whatever period, if they make it, they go through and make some money, but don't know how to really manage it. Is it on them or is it on the society? It's left to judge. But in order for us to change this narrative, I believe we've got to change the emphasis. When we create young men, most of the time when you play, when I was a little league coach, I would mostly say you're providing an opportunity for your parents not to pay for your education. That's what you're in this for. You're not really thinking about going pro. Let's change this expectation so you go into this game with a mentality already cultivated for success and not servitude to this game.
Excellent point.
Not servitude.
Excellent
So
point.
once we can get past that, and it starts with educating our young men at home. And then sending them to institutions that will help sustain what they've learned at the house.
Well, that's a whole other topic, because I think that's very hard you know, as we were talking with, you know, Omar behind the scenes
Right.
earlier about the home dynamic, it's most of these kids, as you said earlier, coming from the inner city,
Yeah.
single parent, mom.
Yeah.
It's very hard for a
It's
mom
tough.
to decipher where her baby is going to be nurtured in the way you just mentioned.
And that's why athletics is so important, because even at a young age, you get the right coaches around these young father figures. You know, it helped me out. So, you know, I think we can all make a comparison, but the best thing for us to do is to continue to educate these boys. And let's find out what these folk think. What y'all think? Is athletics the new slavery, or is it just a little hyperbole to call it that?
Yeah, and if it is another form of slavery, one thing that popped in my mind, and y'all could probably comment on this in the comment section, is does that apply to the white players as well? Because you never hear that said to them, but they're on the field with the black men doing the same thing. They're also regarded as useless after their careers are over, or not.
To a certain extent. To a certain extent.
But then we know, back to the systemic thing, their landing spots post-career seem to be
a lot softer.
So you guys
Let us know
comment on that. Yep.